Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey.
As you can see, it's Monday at 10 p.m. and it's Modern Men. That means Modern Men has been picked up from Pilot, and this is the permanent spot for Modern Men on Monday. So thank you guys so much in the chat for joining us. We'll get into the chat. We'll get into this panel of permanent Modern Men here. So we got Chris Barrett joining us as usual in the chat. How's it going, Chris? Always happy to see him in that chat. He's still calling Andy McNugget for some reason. And then we got the Mastodon Comics and Collecting. How's it going, man? I know he enjoyed the last Modern Men, so big thanks to Donnie for joining us once again. From what I understand, Donnie may have a killer live show coming up this Friday, so sub up the Mastodon Comics and Collecting.
Nice.
I think he's putting together a big live show for Friday evening, so definitely sub him up for more details on that. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and go down to panel. My name's Carson. You already know my goofy face from all the Comic Core shows. Next up, my co-pilot for all of these Modern Men. We got happy birthday to Comic Man Andy.
What?
Oh, boy.
That's why I gotta have you on Facebook, man. Hit me up on, man. That's why you have Facebook, so you know whose birthday it is, right?
I gotta hide this grade.
Right? Come on. Happy birthday, bro. Cool.
Thanks, guys.
You youngin'? I know you're young.
I try. I try.
So the people they're banging at the door. They're asking the question, Andy, how's the beard doing?
Wow. Yeah. Hey, we're getting there. We're just over a week after a fresh, clean cut for that.
How long was it? How long was it between fresh, clean cuts?
Oh man, we were
No, but how many years? What did that represent? Was that a year or 6 months or what was it?
That was about 6 months.
It was about 6 months. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
In Michigan, beards grow quick.
Yeah, gotcha.
We got Rice Melts in the chat saying happy birthday, Andy.
Very nice.
Oh, somebody didn't say McNugget. All right.
Yeah.
Hey. Great start.
And then next up, making his second appearance back from the original pilot episode of Modern Men, we got JB from Discovery Bay Comics. How you doing, JB?
Boom. I am great. Thanks for having me. You know, this is just I'm excited about this, actually. I've got notes and everything. I've got notes. I've got books. I'm ready to show some stuff. It's ready to rock and roll tonight. Let's go.
I feel like it's been a minute since I've been on a Comic Core show where we had a format.
Right?
Because, Friday we like to go off the rails or something like that. Yeah. I don't know. Those guys are crazy. But nonetheless, I was happy to be put together on a panel, and we got a format tonight. So before we jump in to what you guys have been, reading in that modern era of comics, we do have a couple more people. We got JD Comics. How's it going? He's getting ready to make his triumphant return tomorrow for Golden, guys. So if you guys hate the modern era but love them old Golden books, tune in this time tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays for Golden, guys. They have one of the most best informative shows on the Golden Age of comics, so check out those guys. We got Ben Compton. How's it going? Saying happy birthday, Andy. And then we got Mr. Gretzky 9966. He loves him some modern era stuff. He's got some of the greatest Superman books you'll ever see. So I know he loves him some Superman. But before we hop into our topic tonight, gotta go over just kind of what we've been reading, basically. For me, you might say it's a Copper Age, a Bronze Age, a Modern Age. We're gonna get into all of the ages tonight. But I've been reading some Doom Patrol from Grant Morrison. Just started with issue 19 this weekend. Worked my way up till about issue 23, 24, just because I got done watching the show about a month ago on the DC streaming app. And I think it's the best show they've produced on the streaming app, which for me, it's a high bar. Everything they've put out live action has been great. So it got me wanting to read that Grant Morrison run, because if you guys follow my channel, I love me some Grant Morrison. New X-Men, Animal Man, the Green Lantern run he's doing now, so on and so forth. So I'm like, why have I not read his Doom Patrol run? So I'm trying to correct that error. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. The art is a little bit gritty, that late 80s style. But I do love me, some Robot Man, some Negative Man, which I didn't know in that book. Like, he's part man, part space creature, part woman, all merged into one person. So what? Very, very weird and interesting is Negative Man, or whatever he's supposed to be called in that book. And of course, you got Crazy Jane. If you watch the show, you pretty much get the Crazy Jane you know what to expect. She has like 48 alternative personalities. It might be 60. I can't remember the exact number. And each of those alternative personalities has their own power. So she basically has like 40 to 60 different power sets depending on what mood or what person she is in. So a lot of interesting characters in there.
Called? This is
Doom Patrol, man. Doom Patrol. It's very crazy. I would say for me, I don't care what anyone says. It's a modern era style comic. If it's not, it definitely led into the modern era. And then also before I turn over to comment, Andy, JD also wants me to plug the return of Stranger Things tomorrow at 11 p.m.
Nice.
So that'll be another great show. So a double header on the Comic Core tomorrow. So big thanks to JD for hooking up those two shows. They're going to be great. So Andy, you had a couple reads you wanted to talk about.
Well, I'm getting caught up on my my weekly raids. I definitely picked up The Last God with DC. I've never been a massive DC fan. They're starting to swing me on a lot of their newer books. The artwork in this is fantastic. The story was a little difficult to follow at first. Definitely going to follow this to the first story arc. Basket full of heads. This had a lot of hype off the get-go. Had some. This was an amazing cover. This was a little bit tougher to get into for me. My understanding is this is kind of styled. This has a lot to do with Stephen King. It's Joe Hill, Leo Max, Dave Stewart. But my understanding is this is kind of playing out like a Stephen King story. So, as is tradition, it starts off a little slow, and there's a lot to read. There's a lot of story building there. Definitely following this for the first arc, seeing where that goes because it's a really good idea. Silver Surfer Black. Oh, God, was that good. That was good. That was really good. I can't wait to go back and reread this series. Part of me was thinking that there was another one coming, and then when I got to that last page and it said the end, I was like, oh, man. I was struggling with that being the end because I just wanted more. And then Excalibur. Not a super huge fan. Like Drew Manchu, I'm not a super huge fan of like sorcery and the medieval times, but I'm definitely following this for the first story arc. I got lucky with that variant. It was the last variant of its kind in the store. There was some of the Jubilee variants left, but man, my LCS got cleared out in Excalibur. But so for super modern stuff, that's it. But I got really excited when Carson and I started talking about it, and I dug deep for something I have never read. I was really excited to find this, and I think I showed this on one of the last shows that I picked up, is I went to my local flea market and found the first major run of Doom 2099. Nice. I picked up the first 25 copies, or the first 25 issues for 80 cents a cover.
Nice.
Cover to read. Awesome. And this is just some great 90s nostalgia, in my opinion. I love the covers. Broderick. Is it Broderick? Is it pronounced Broderick? Pat Broderick, I believe, is the cover artist. I don't know, man. Just the way they did it in the 90s, I really loved. I'm glad I picked it up. I'm excited to read. I read the first 5. I got another 20 to read on there, and then I'm going to my local flea market to pick up the next 25 copies that are available. I can't remember how long it ran, but really excited for that. In a nutshell, that's what I picked up and I read, and this brings up a great topic, guys. Modern age. Where does modern age fit?
Yeah.
That's something we've all wanted to talk about, and we'll segue right into JB here and see what he's been reading.
Oh, as far as what I'm reading, definitely, I'm still on Venom. I don't know if you guys are still on Venom. I'm still on Venom. Silver Surfer Black 5, absolutely. Excalibur also, same one, definitely. And then one that I'm really enjoying this. I don't know if you guys are into getting this Harleen.
Oh yeah, I'm probably gonna try to get issue 2 on in stock trades wherever I do my next order.
Guys, this is good. I've been really enjoying this Black Label on this one.
I want to read it so bad, but I'm so irritated that it's like the prestige format.
I know, man. I'm kind of bummed on all these new prestige formats. I'm like, I got no bags, I got no boards. I mean, these things are all sitting, basically like trades right now.
Yeah.
Sideways because I don't have the right packaging for them. But that's it on moderns. And as far as this modern men thing, I pulled all kinds of books to show. So, but we definitely got to start with the segue of where do we start? Because on my notes, we are not all starting on the same date. You know, in my mind, I grew up basically, I graduated high school class of 90. So Secret Wars was a huge thing to me. And I look at it now and that's Copper Age. But then some people say Copper Age doesn't exist. So where do you, Carson and Andy, and chat, where do you guys consider the modern age to even start? I mean, I always considered it to start in the 90s, for some reason. In my mind, I always thought, I like Spawn and the break of Image and all that kind of signified modern age to me. And everything prior to that was still Copper. But I wanted to get, your take on it. That's kind of my take.
Yeah, so and by the way, before I even continue, we just talked about hardcover formats, prestige formats, trades, absolutes. By the way, we're going to do a topic, if not next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line on just different formats. So spoilers, that'll be coming down the line. But tonight's topic, if you guys couldn't tell, we're going to talk about what's in an age is the title of the show tonight. So we're going to try to figure out, to the best of our three abilities, where do you draw that line? Where does the modern age start? Should the modern age have lasted like however in the world long it's lasted? Technically, I guess a lot of people draw the line at like 91, 92. Some people draw it at 1985. But I guess first, before we talk about the modern age, we kind of got to visit some history on what are these ages? So on most of the articles I read, big shout out to TiVo from Lords of the Long Box.
Yeah.
Andy asked for some links in the Comic Core chat today about, where does he find what the ages are. And TiVo hooked it up with a couple good links we'll talk about here in a little bit. Basically, you got the Platinum Age, which basically that's like your 1800s through about 1937. So it's pre-superhero, basically.
About 41 years.
Yeah, it's your like booming 20s, your Depression era.
And how long was that period? I want to talk about that too. How long was each period?
Sure.
About 41 years for Platinum, roughly.
Platinum, okay.
Yep. And then, of course, you got your Golden Age, which would be 1938. So that's pretty much like once you get, the entrance of Superman in Action Comics #1, the debut of Detective Comics, obviously Batman's debut there. On the Marvel side, you had, timely Marvel Comics, the introduction of Captain America, so on and so forth. That lasted, I believe, till about 1955. Until I'm just doing this off the top of my head because I've collected for so long.
Yeah,
so if I'm completely wrong,
yeah, you're good. You're good.
You're good.
So the Silver Age typically would be next, even though there's one article that says there's the Atomic Age, which we can talk about that in a little bit. But in my opinion, Silver Age is about 1955-ish. That's like the rechristening of superheroes after World War II. So that started with Showcase #4, The Flash, Showcase 22, the introduction of Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, so on and so forth there. Probably also the introduction of the Comics Code of Authority coming in the 50s had a lot to do with that, eliminating, the pre-code era of especially the horror books we all know and love. Next up would be the Bronze Age, which would be 1970. That seems to be one of the definitive markers on a lot of these articles I read was 1970. It was the start of the Bronze Age. Just kind of like, number one, it's kind of like the start of when comics started to go up in price a lot more frequently. They went from 12 cents to 15 cents, 25 cents, up and up and up. But also it was kind of like that dark turn in the world, not in all of storytelling, basically. So comic books, you had Green Lantern, Green Arrow 76, with the Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams run, where they started talking about more like drug culture and, just mixed races and that stuff in their comics, just addressing that straightforward. Meanwhile, you had Conan #1 come out on the Marvel side, which is a pretty big line that's been drawn there too. And also, I mean, you can't fault or not talk about cinema there, where you start to have that more gritty style filmmaking. So it wasn't only in comics, it was in culture just in general and music. I always just think of when I think 70s movies, I just think of the rise of horror movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween. Those are some dark, gritty movies. Death Wish with Charles Bronson, those type of stuff. Dirty Harry, that type of stuff. And then this is where it gets interesting because typically around 84, 85, people will talk about a copper age that rose up around then, which I think is very important because you had DC had Crisis on Infinite Earths, which kind of like took all their big crazy continuity stuff and mixed it into one continuity. But it has a lot to do with the storytelling and the fact that it went from that 70s grittiness and it got even darker from there because you had Dark Knight Returns, the Frank Miller Daredevil run. So you had the 1-2 punch of Frank Miller. You had The Watchmen from Alan Moore, which is a groundbreaking piece of work in itself.
This guy's amazing, by the way, man.
And then this is where a lot of the modern age comes in around 1991, 1992. And a lot of that line being drawn has to do with, the Jim Lee X-Men specifically. And this is where comics go from big to really big in terms of sales numbers and that stuff. X-Men #1, obviously still the #1 best-selling comic of all time. And you can't not talk about the launch of Image Comics around 1992 with Youngblood #1.
Yep.
Spawn #1 eventually coming, Wildcats #1. Those were all million-plus seller books. And then, you see the crazy collector's boom of the 90s. You see that roller coaster ride where comics almost shut down all these local shops. Marvel filed for bankruptcy and all that stuff, and then we can talk about the movies and so on and so forth coming up because that's where do you draw the line?
There's another break. There should be another break.
So
JB, where did you find the code to Carson's knowledge tonight?
He's amazing, dude. He's blowing my mind. It's ridiculous.
Right.
And he's just going off the cuff, man. He has no notes. Right? I'm taking notes faster than he can. I'm taking notes faster than he can talk. It's ridiculous.
But
I did want to mention some times now. You go platinum. You go platinum to golden was 41 years.
Yeah.
From golden to silver is 17. From
Yep.
silver to bronze is 15.
Yep.
From bronze to a supposed copper
Yes.
is about 16. But then the copper only lasts 6.
Well, that's debate.
Okay. And now the current is rolling on 27 plus.
So the existence,
or if you don't believe in copper, it's rolling on 33 plus.
So the existence of a copper age is still debatable. And this is why I love that Carson brought this topic up, because I think this is an under-discussed topic in the community. Copper age. Where does Bronze Age turn into copper and copper turn into modern? So, most people, the Overstreet Guide doesn't, if I remember correctly, doesn't list a copper age.
So where does it start modern at? Does it start at 91, 92?
They don't list the specific years. I was just digging through that. Right now,
I agree with Carson that Jim Lee X-Men 1 and Image kind of define modern to me.
Thank you. I don't disagree with that one bit, but the general rule of thumb still from a lot of websites and a lot of people that talk still say platinum, golden, silver, bronze, and then modern. Not very many people, or not enough of the community is talking about a copper age. We need a copper age in there. Platinum lasted 41 years, golden 17, silver 15, bronze 16, and now modern. Most the rule of thumb is modern is 1985 to present. That's massive
too long
compared to everything else. So we got to fit a copper in there. I grew up in copper. JB, you were talking about copper.
I grew up in copper. Yeah, I mean,
I'm really excited about this topic because there's lots of data out there where you can kind of throw this around and see where the community's at. And I think the community wants to talk more about it too.
Nice.
Chris Barrett.
Chris Barrett's hilarious. Now, Mr. Gretzky threw out some dates. He said copper was 1986 through 1992. And then you got modern 1992 to 2012. Okay. Based on that, Mr. Gretzky, what are we in now? If 2012 to now is what?
I feel like copper can almost be identified from, what did Gretzky say? I lost that top, or I lost
Copper. Gretzky had 86 to 92 for copper.
I feel like you can almost take copper from 86 to close to 2000, close to that image break off. Or is that what he's saying?
No, okay. So now probably 2008 to 2020, the millennial variant age, JD,
Nice.
which I actually have as part of what I wanted to talk about because on the return,
I like Drew Manchu's answer, 85 to 2000 for copper age. That's
solid.
That's a solid right there. That's a solid.
Plus it stays in line with 17, 15, 16, 15. Okay, that still puts us into something else already.
But then we don't drop the moniker of the modern age. The modern age just gets kicked to the modern era.
So what do you slap in between copper now and modern?
Well, I mean, you could make something.
Basically from what, 2012 to now.
Well, you can make something up.
It's modern, so you have to make up something between 2000 and 2012, which is really a dead period.
I mean, yeah, you can make something up, which is what a lot of people have talked about doing over time. And one of the favorite things that I had, if I could find it here, is womenwriteaboutcomics.com. This is a discussion written by Corey McCreary, super cool Scottish name. I'll have some scotch with that one.
Nice. Cheers to
that, Jamie. May of 2018, she wrote this, and she discusses there being a dark age from 1985 to 2000.
Ooh.
See how excited? Yeah, that's a super.
I like that.
Super discussable topic right there. I really like it too. She's not the only person I found online that's discussed a dark age, but that's the only article I brought up right away is womenwriteaboutcomics.com. Please look it up.
Drew said the Steel Age.
Yeah,
we're the moron age.
Legend's like, yeah, I saw you smile at that one, so I
like that. Legend. I love it.
And then Donnie's too. Sorry, didn't mean to derail
garbage
your conversation.
age.
Please keep going.
I've also
love it.
Referred to as the Diamond Age as well. Oh man, I don't have that article on me.
Okay, now Drew Manchu said the Steel Age. I like that because you are going down in value of the element.
So I do like Air Spider's 23 comment, which, by the way, welcome Air Spider 23. He says the modern age should be considered the age you're in, no matter what.
It should always be the current age you're in, which means I like that dark age, though, man. Oh, that is so fitting.
It's not a bad one.
That's when DC died, really, and then rebirth, right?
So I put the 3 articles we talked about today into the chat, actually, for those watching out there. They can click along and we can kind of discuss these articles. So you're talking about the womenwriteaboutcomics.com article, which I put in the chat. So their lines they drew were Golden Age from 38 to 50, which we kind of discussed. And then there seems to be this like lull between 51 and 55. 56 to 70 Silver Age, we pretty much already discussed that. They make the same points about, the rise of superheroes like Flash, Green Lantern, but also the Stan Lee Marvel stuff, of course, which we all know and love those characters. The Bronze Age they have listed from 70 to 85. That's pretty standard. And then they list the Dark Age from 1985 to the year 2000. So it's not called Copper. They specifically dubbed it the Dark Age. Ooh. And then the modern age would be 2000 to now ? Maybe. So they're kind of like us, basically, where they just put ? for, how long do you drag this thing out? Because there's been so many changes in the hobby, which I kind of want to talk about here in a second. And I also posted these next 2 are the ones that TiVo from Lords of the Long Box referenced. So here's one from Sparkle City Comics. So once again, Golden Age, 38 to 56. Yep. Silver Age, 56, 70. Nothing crazy there. Bronze Age, 70, 85. And then this is the one where they start the modern age at 1985 to present day.
Wow.
Which seems a little...
Yes. A little excessive.
Debatable. Definitely.
Hey, did you see what JD said? That, you actually got an indie age. Kind of because when Image broke, it kind of changed the game. Then all these publishers said, "Hey, if they could do it, we could do it." And
Mm-hmm.
So I like that too. I like the indie age.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great term. I would agree with that. And then the next one is from comicbookhistorians.com. So they have 8 ages of comics here. So
8?
they have the Platinum Age, which we talked about. They started at 1897, stretching until 37, of course. So that means Golden Age 38, first appearance Superman right there, going till 47. And then this is where they draw the line differently. So from 38 to 47, so the Golden Age was 11 years. They introduced the Atomic Age from 48 to 55, citing that there was a downturn of superhero comics post-World War II, which that's where you get into your genre comics like, your romance comics, Western comics, so on and so forth. And obviously the downturn of war comics, too, that has to be said as well.
Makes sense.
So you have your Atomic Age. And then after your Atomic Age, we already kind of talked about the re-christening of the superheroes in the Silver Age on 1956 to 1969, which we've already talked about that. Bronze Age, same thing, 70 to 84. Then the Dark or the Copper Age, they specify it from 85 to 91. So 1985, there's definitely some sort of line here that's consistent in all these articles.
I mean, that's when Secret Wars broke, was in 85.
Correct. That would be a good one, too, with the black suit Spider-Man. That has
84,
to be
85.
in the term of the Copper/Dark Age. Here's where it gets interesting, though. They have a 6-year age called the Extreme Age.
I love
Extreme.
I love it.
So pretty much like your Liefeld McFarlane style era we talked about with the Image Comics, and of course Jim Lee stuff too. And the last age they have specified, you'll love this one, JB, from 1998 to 2016, which is when this article was originally published. So pretty much 1998 to current, the movie age.
That is perfect. It's right. It is so changed everything. I mean, Legend actually made a comment you highlighted. Yep. The movies are changing everything for us right now, and us being the comic collector, because we care. Because what first appearance was that coming up?
Yep.
Who's about to come out in that? Did you see the new graphic for Spider-Man? There might be a first appearance. You look at it, the hair is standing up.
You're giving me goosebumps, JB.
I love it. That's awesome.
I agree wholeheartedly with like the idea of the Extreme Age and the movie age. I love them. I love them a lot, but I feel like 20 or 30 years from now, we're going to fall into the Copper Age. I feel as a realist, that might be like a subcategory of a larger category of, either 19, whether you call it 1985 or 1992, I kind of feel like those subcategories get smushed into a portion that's going to be called the Copper Age still. That's not what my heart likes, but it's kind of where the realist is.
That's great, Legend. You're awesome.
Wow. JB, keep talking, man. Let's
go. That's awesome.
And then I did want to cite one more source, and this is the one I was originally going to cite tonight before, Andy was nice enough to get some of these articles for us to read. So the one source I typically go to, and you guys might think this is funny, I reference eBay because it's the number one marketplace for comics. So I think, their breakdown of this category should be taken a little bit seriously, because this is how people essentially search for a lot of the things they want to buy online.
And come on, let's be honest. eBay helps us determine what we want to pay or what's the current market rate.
No,
I mean, that is the telltale. What is the current market rate of something?
Yeah. So they have, of course, the Platinum Age till 37, like most articles. Golden Age, 38 to 55. Silver Age, 56 to 69. And then the Bronze Age, 1970 to 1983. And they have a Copper Age listing, 1984 to 1991, and everything else is listed as Modern Age 1991 to current.
Interesting.
So if you're looking for Ninja Turtles, like I'm always, you got to go Copper Age on your search history.
That's funny.
So that's according to eBay.
Yes. So if you go to the filters on eBay, that's what pops up for your search options. So that's what they think the ages are.
It's funny you bring that up, Carson, because when I was going through my old Overstreet here, I found a tab. That brings me right to the TMNT section from 2010, where I actually bought a bunch of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle books, like 2, 3, 4, 5, the affordable ones when they were affordable in 2010.
Yeah.
I don't own them anymore.
No.
I sold them.
Oh man, why didn't you sell them to me?
Man.
But I guess, since we finally established like all these theories and ages and all this stuff, now we can kind of start to talk about where we think the lines should be drawn. So what I was thinking is I love me the Copper Age. If I had to pick like one age that was the most like transitional and important to the comic books now, the way stories are told, I would say the Copper Age,
right?
The way it's typically classified in a lot of these articles and even on eBay, I'd say that's like one of the most important ages for establishing what we have set up now in terms of storytelling and the way, people or writers format their stories.
Absolutely.
I think since Alan Moore, Frank Miller, and even Neil Gaiman came along and kind of, did their thing, a lot of writers have followed that format ever since. So I think Copper Age, the 84, 85, there has to be a line drawn there from the Bronze Age, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So I think that is established. That 1985 is a fine line.
Where's my gavel? So I can let it be.
At least no, 85 should be a line. And honestly,
we have now established on the official Comic Core YouTube channel that the Copper Age begins in 1984. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that because you can definitely see it when you look at books. When you look at books from that era and then you look at the Copper era and the way the Copper era has grown, you see a progression of glitz and glam that storytelling was still there to some point, but you get the glitz and the glam. You get the sex sells. You get a lot of the amazing covers, and then you get into the more 90s stuff when it's really about a lot of art and stories. Did come second at some point. The story, let's be honest, the story and the writing sometimes did come second for some books. But you kind of see a progression from 85 on in, and it's like, wow, it's kind of shocking to bring in and take in and think about.
Yeah, I think JD made a good point. You had those two major events that happened, both with Secret Wars and Crisis, Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah,
and that and that changes everything. So it's a definable turning point in both those major comics, story arcs, and what was going to happen after that.
Yeah, like I said, you had Watchmen come out, Dark Knight Returns, which redefined the character of Batman to the point where that's the way he's written today. Crisis, of course. I mean, you saw the rebranding and renumbering of a lot of their characters post-Crisis. Secret Wars with, kind of what it did, especially with Spider-Man getting his black costume, taking the darker turn even further for that character. So definitely 84. So I think, we got the line drawn there. I am still good with the line drawn in like 91, 92 because there were so many things happening, not only from a storytelling standpoint, with X-Men #1 come out, Chris Claremont, Jim Lee, the launch of Image in the independent era, as a lot of people put it, with that book right there, spot #1, Wildcats.
As far as Copper Age ending,
oh yeah,
I agree.
Cyber Force. I mean, every one of those books, right there.
At some point, you see that progression from that, which we're discussing Copper Age, and then Image, Jim Lee, and the flashiness and the glitz and the glam, and you kind of see a little bit of. I like when they talk about the Dark Age going in there. Image brought a lot of that in with Dark Minds. A lot of other books covers were really dark, really gritty, really sexy. There was a lot of that in there. But when you talk Copper and then go on to a modern, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and then you had, of course, DC side. You can't not mention the death of Superman. That brought a lot of people, like readers like me, in permanently. But on the market side, this is where your books all across the board started to blow up. Local shops started to increase. It's pretty much like the Copper Age is when the comics started making their way into comic shops and off of your grocery shelves.
Yep.
The modern eras where it really got contained and bottlenecked into these local shops to the point where a lot of these local shops were opening up. And unfortunately, within years in the same era, it's when they started closing too. So it's where the speculation market really started. Your older stuff started to go up in price. Everything that came out, we just talked about, was speculated upon. and went up big time. Air Spider 23 once again had a good book. I should have mentioned Spider-Man #1 and all those bag variants for the McFarlane run. So another big turn there. But yeah, it's really where your shop started to rise and started to fall too. So it's really a roller coaster of a market in the 90s.
Yeah, my neighborhood comic book store, the one I grew up going to all the time, started in the early 90s, and I started buying a lot of my collection in the late 80s at the newsstand at the drugstore when my parents were shopping and my family was shopping. And then when I discovered my own income from mowing lawns and all that other jazz in my local shop, and I started going there, that's when they were first opening up. That shop's kind of really quiet now compared to the 90s because they're just surviving on their local customers and what they're ordering versus in the 90s with the print runs and the mass of people that were floating in there to buy everything. It's kind of like the brewing industry right now. Like in the last 5-6 years, breweries could open up and people would flood them. A year or two later, if you're not innovating and changing and not staying current with the market, people just kind of aren't visiting breweries like they were a few years ago.
Right.
I think an LCS today, an LCS that's successful today is not just selling comic books, man. You've seen it. They got statues, they got pops, they got figures, they've got cards. So much, the cards. There's so many things that they're doing to offset because the comics is just not that big a draw. But I will tell you, during that House of X, Powers of X, I freaking stood in line to get into. Nice. I'm like, hey, who are all these people? And we were all getting the same thing. So comics are transcendent that way, that when something is just good, and HOX, POX was damn good, people will come, they will buy it, and they will sell out the shelves. And that's what happened early on in those runs, man. If I wasn't in line, I wouldn't have got it. So,
yeah, which is a great analogy or a great topic when there's a lot of people online that are worried about the comic book industry now in the next 5 or 6 years. I am here to tell you guys, I am not worried about the comic book industry at all over the next decade. You want to know why? Because they learned a lot from the 90s as far as print runs, a lot of other things.
Yeah.
And people that make comic books right now aren't going to print 3 or 4 or 5 million copies. They're going to print what they need to appease the local industry, the local buyers. Not local. I mean, help me out, guys. They're
just
going
the current demand, and then if they see spike, they'll go second printing. Exactly. And if they see demand, they'll go third printing. And now they can variant cover these things. So the second and third printings are actually more valuable and more sought after.
I'm not a huge chaser of variants, but when it comes to second prints and third prints and fourth prints and fifth prints, I've seen that, wow, they've really learned from the 90s. Instead of printing 3 or 4 million copies of a comic book, they found a new way. They found a way to stay not relevant, but they're not going to overextend themselves to the point where they have to claim bankruptcy or anything like that. And people say that the modern comic book, the comic book that we hold in our hands and our read, the people still say that's dying. I disagree 100%. This comic book that we're holding in our hands isn't going to die anytime soon. And it's because of the comic book collecting community overall in a whole.
I don't know if I agree with you, because I'm telling you, the advent of these tablets getting smaller and thinner and the digital copies going on, I think it's going to be guys, the older crowd, the collector of something that still wants to frame it and hang it on the wall or something. My kids, I try and, even I'm getting comics. You guys, people in the community, send my kids comics, and she asked me, she goes, "Can I read this online?" It's in your hand already. What do you mean read it online? You already have it physically in your hand. Turn the pages.
I could be 100% wrong. Guaranteed. I could be 100% wrong. But my son, I'll do what I can to have him reading books and pages before, I'm still going to train. I'm still going to allow him an opportunity to learn technology, obviously, because I don't want to screw him up for the future, so to speak. But that's a whole nother show with a whole nother.
I know. So moderns, we're going to talk. What should we be reading? Us in the chat, you, me, what in the modern area is something that if you haven't read it, dude, what do you mean you didn't read that? That's what I hope we get out of this at some point, that we get to decide, and week to week, all come together and give us hopefully enough advance notice to the people in the chat so they can join us with the read of the week of something in this era. We've got 33 years to work with, or 27 years to work with. We got a big window, and I know there's some good reads in there. So yeah, well, tell me how that's going to work. See,
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do want the chat to kind of come up with a couple reads here. So I think what we're going to do each week is we're going to have this like random.org, where each of us panelists comes up with about maybe 1 to 3 reads, puts it in a randomizer, and then whatever wins, we're going to read that comic the next week, and then you guys can join us. So my one caveat to this, it's got to be easily accessible. So preferably digital somehow, whether it be Marvel Unlimited, the Comixology, Amazon Prime app, the DC streaming, or just the common dollar bin book. Like I already threw Wildcats #1 on the list.
Can we set a limit? I don't want somebody in the chat saying to read the first 50 copies.
No, like 5 issues would be the limit. In my opinion. Something we could read easily in the week, in between our jobs.
Chris Barrett, throw that on the list right now. Craven's Last Hunt.
Okay, I'm good with that. So while the chat comes up with, and JB, Andy, if you guys see a read that you like, put it in our private chat, and I'll copy and paste it into the randomizer. So I'm going to put Craven's Last Hunt. But we'll go ahead and keep going with this topic for about 10 more minutes while the chat comes up with some good reads. And then by the end of the show, we're going to do a randomizer. And then that's what we're going to read next week for about, and recap it for 10 minutes in between a topic like we're covering tonight.
So, if we got a couple minutes to talk, I wanted to mention, before we started, we were talking about modern. I'm like, hey guys, this is really weird because, 92, 93, that's kind of, I just got out of high school. I stopped buying comics, guys. That really defines the end of when I kind of stopped buying. But then I just got back in last year. And what were the ones that got me hooked? What were the comics that said, wow, man, this blew my mind? So I brought a little stack of some stuff. I'm telling you, when I first got back, I ended up chasing back issues of this because Cosmic Ghost Rider was fantastic.
Ooh.
Right? So Cosmic Ghost Rider was one of those ones that got me back in. And then I was like, let me follow Donny Cates. Where else is he going? He's going to Venom. And Venom was fantastic.
Venom has been good.
When I was younger, when I was a kid, I didn't actually think I chased an artist or a writer. But now as I'm older, I'm finding that I am chasing specific artists and specific writers because of their work. Some of the other stuff that just hooked me when we get to indie kind of stuff. Die was freaking awesome, man.
Die has been good through the first story arc. Yep.
That blew me away. I had a bunch of fun with Prodigy.
Yeah, Prodigy was solid. Yeah, I enjoyed Prodigy.
Was solid. And then
Prodigy and Magic Order from Mark Millar. He had a good, actually Prodigy, Magic Order, and Reborn started a pretty good streak of Millar stuff when he kind of made his big splash back after doing Reborn.
Where is my
so JB, while the chat's still coming up with some really good topics here, I'd like to bring up a comment. Mark Spector Comics said, anyone can read a book online, but a digital copy has no value, and that's what it comes down to. We are all collectors. Now, I would like to capitalize on that and say that I'm going to screw this up, but Jim Lee said comics are like a woman. You would rather have one in your hand than read one on a screen. So, and I am a firm believer of Stan. Did I say Jim Lee? Stan Lee said a comic is better in a set of hands than on a screen, and I'm a firm believer in that, so to speak. As well, will I read comic books online? Sure, this is going to help push me to expand my knowledge and read more. But when I get done reading something online, I'm still going to go out and buy the books because that's who I am.
Because we're collectors, though. I think you collect people. We collect. Look up here, guys. We collect pops. We collect statues. We collect figures. People collect pins. People collect stuff. And there are people that collect comic books. And as long as we're introducing those to the kids, there will always be people who collect comic books.
Yep. Collect what you love, and you'll love what you collect.
Definitely. Another read that these are two more that just got me. Anybody read this?
Oh, Murder Falcon, yeah. I read the first issue of that. That was a lot of fun.
It was hilarious fun. And
Oh my God, John.
Little Bird. Anybody? Come on, that's another fantastic.
No, Little Bird had a lot of hype behind it, and Little Bird, my understanding, was a great read. And if I remember correctly, I think it was optioned.
Option, but it was a great read.
It may have been optioned, and for anybody that doesn't care about optioning or not optioning, it's still a great read. Pick it up if you find it.
Yeah. So that some of this new modern stuff. Now, something when I first got back and I get to I go to an LCS and I say, hey, what should I be reading? I haven't read comic books in a long time. He offered me the Cosmic Ghost Rider and Batman.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. I hope your brain is prepared for a lot of information.
Oh, yeah. So I picked up Batman right at the wedding, or the not wedding, but you know what I mean, from there. And then what would you describe Tom King's run of Batman? I think it was either Drew Manchu or it was a Pocan Joe who said it best, that I think Tom King is he's calling out for help. That he needs help. He's got so many things. He's calling out for help through the book, because I was just so like, I don't even want to read Batman anymore. I don't even think I read the last 10 issues. I was like so fed up with it.
I'm not the biggest Batman fan, and I do not dislike Tom King one bit, but one of my cold picks for the Simpleman's Comics Family Hot Cold Show was Tom King about a month ago, because people just were kind of voicing their opinions like, hey, Tom, here's where we're at. And I picked up on that, and I'm like, yeah, I better list this as a cold pick right now, because the community's just not feeling too hot about it.
Yeah. The real Dr. Venkman said, skip Tom King Batman and read the Tomasi Detective Comics. Solid.
Yeah, I've heard that one too. So I put a few suggestions in the private chat, guys. If you want to veto them, look at them, add to your own, go ahead and check that out. But I'll give my final thoughts on where the line should be drawn for the modern era from 1991 and the modern era from now. So read that chat, and I'll go ahead and kind of decide.
Hold on. What about
yeah, go ahead and type it in that chat. Yeah. I think what I was going to propose is I think there should be a line drawn in 2011, and here's why. So 2011, you had those similar big storylines, kind of like you did in 85 with a lot of comics. So on DC, you had the New 52, obviously. I think that was a pretty big turning point in DC storytelling. And then Marvel started their format of Marvel Now, which is kind of what they've done since, where it's almost more like, instead of having these big long runs of comics, it's more like they do seasons of comics where most of your runs last like 10, 12, 24 issues maximum, and then they kind of rebrand and go from there. So I think since 2011, they have done a lot of that. And really, Image and the independent stuff, it's been kind of thriving, in my opinion, since 2000. So I don't know if I could really justify 2011 for the independent, but I'm just using mainly DC and Marvel's storytelling. But I also think the Disney buyout in 2010 going into 2011 has a lot to do with that as well, because the movies, obviously. So you have
that movie age coming up.
Of the movie age in 2011 on. I mean, of course, Iron Man came out in 2008, but I think it's really 2010, 2011 where they've gotten really majorly big. Also, we talked about the digital footprint, so it's really gotten bigger since, especially in 2011, they started putting those QR codes in the back of comic books. Comixology started to grow. And my last point, and then we'll go ahead and get your guys' final thoughts here as well. My last point is the major rise in grading comics. So I think CGC came around probably early 2000s, probably almost right at 2000. I can't remember the year they were founded. I'm not going to look that up right at this point in the show. But nonetheless, I think, with the expanded trading of CGC and seeing that company grow, as well as, your CBCS, PGX, so on and so forth, I think the way those type of books have been collected has grown exponentially. And then actually the very, very last point, and I'll let you guys go, variants. We can't not talk about the growth of variants and how DC and Marvel use variant covers to really push their books now, rather than the storytelling and the art on the inside. I think it's really switched over since
exactly
2000.
why I brought these three. I'm buying covers.
Yes.
For art for books that are terrible reads.
I will be the first to step up and say that I buy comic books for covers sometimes.
Yeah.
But I am not a huge chaser of variants because my budget doesn't allow for that. Variants can get expensive, and they can get expensive really fast, especially the ratio variants. That being said, if I can find something that's in my budget that I really want, that I really love, I'm going to try. God, where was I going with this thought? Variants are here and variants are here to stay. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that's very debatable and it tears a lot of people apart. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, because the hobby has always been you look back so far long ago, the hobby and comic books in general have been a big portion of where do they catch you? Where do they sell you? Their number one point of sale is that cover, and it always has been, and it always will be.
Yep.
You don't have to be ashamed at loving the cover of a comic book and buying it for the cover, but you also don't have to be ashamed for not buying it because it's cover and just buying for the story either. Yeah. It's one of those things where nobody's wrong in that debate. Nobody's wrong at all in that debate. But they're gonna sell what sells.
I had noticed that when I got back in this time, I actually started chasing artists for a period. Like literally, like everything that Matina was putting out and Archer was putting out and Clayton Crane was I had to have it. I was chasing cover art by certain artists. You know, I'm not doing that anymore, thank goodness. But
it's expensive
period of time that I was.
It happens.
It happens. What's up, Drew Manchu, baby?
Oh, I saw you guys were live, and I figured, why not ruin it?
Drew rolls in like an avalanche of syrup, nice and slow, and just as sugary as he ever could be.
Oh, I am absolutely glacial.
Glacial. I love me some Drew Manchu, baby.
All right, so welcome, Drew. I've got this list of randomized. So before I go to the randomizer,
I'd like to add some titles to this list here.
I actually got one for you on the list already.
Yeah, Magic Order.
Magic Order should definitely be on the list. And if we're just talking about like modern reads,
and like 5 issues or less, we don't want to get all
I think that people should have to read Convergence.
Oh God,
I've never read it.
I'm throwing Saga in the book.
We'll put Saga 1 through 5.
Saga's another good one too.
1 through 5. We need to read at least 5 issues of Saga. We'll put that.
Saga's solid.
Saga's a number one, a read that a lot of the community doesn't bring up very often. It brings up often, and it doesn't bring up very often. It's one of those things where so many people are drawn into the community because Saga is so well written that it's kind of like, oh man, we could do a whole other show on Saga.
Let's not do Why the Last Man for 80
episodes. I think that one's been covered.
No, don't do that one again.
Now I said it earlier in the chat. I'm not sure if any of you guys addressed it because then I came home and
we ignore you, sir.
Did human things.
We totally ignore you.
But I feel like personally, the modern age for me begins with like Legion Quest.
Ooh.
With Onslaught.
Ooh.
With Age of Apocalypse and with Heroes Reborn. I'm like, that's where it all went to shit. And it all kind of had to reinvent itself.
Ooh.
And then you go into what I like to think of as like the event age. Where Marvel and DC are just like, well, this year we're going to do this event and we'll
that's
plan things around this event. So like Civil War kind of starts the event age.
I give Drew a big old Comic Man Andy hug for that opinion.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't mind that one. He also had a 0 Hour as well from DC around that time as well. All right, so here's the list I have compiled. So I put my few picks, which I don't even think I told you guys about yet. And by the way, I'm in screen share, so hopefully everyone can see the list I got going on here. If not,
we can't. Well, I don't actually know. I'm not watching the. No,
you're not.
Still
sure.
4 up.
Okay, so I guess I'll just read them and go from there, if nothing else.
Yeah, sure, why not?
I'm
So
still looking at the three hottest guys in comic core history.
So I have Ultimates 1 through 5 because I wanted to add one Ultimate read. I'll probably keep adding one Ultimate read every week because I think it's underrated, the whole run, that original run. Wildcats #1, just the book we all have laying around. We got to read it at some point, I feel like. I put Marvel Zombies 1 through 5 on there, so the original Robert Kirkman run of Marvel Zombies. Kraven's Last Hunt, Venom Lethal Protector, and then we got some chat nominations I thought were pretty good. Donnie, the Mastodon, suggested Green Arrow Longbow Hunters.
Donnie can't say anything until he reads Black Hammer.
Donnie's been cut off.
We got the Magic Order from Drew. Comic Head 84 nominated Warren Ellis's Moon Knight, so we'll probably just say like Moon Knight 1 through 5.
Yeah.
I believe that's accessible on the Unlimited app. Same thing, JD. He suggested Mark Waid's Doctor Strange. It's probably like the first 5 issues. John's Comics with Kids had 2 really good ones, and I wanted to come up with the Donnie Cates one and then one for Andy pretty much. So we suggested Punisher War Journal and then Thanos Wenge, which is pretty much the Donnie Cates storyline that he did. And then recently Saga 1 through 5 and then Legion Quest, which I can't remember the exact X-Men numbers, but it's a 4-issue run pretty much that leads into the Age of Apocalypse. So if everyone is cool with those picks, going once, going twice.
No, that's fine.
We're going to randomize this thing. We're going to figure out what we're going to read together next week, and hopefully we can all find it.
I threw Gen 13 as a joke.
I'll go with Gen 13 1 through 5, that whole run. It's a 5-issue mini. We're putting that in.
No, we're not doing that during November.
You know what? I haven't read it yet, and I know it should be on the list.
You know what? I'm not going to have
the God Butcher is a good run, right?
Yeah, that is good.
Yep,
that is good. But I don't put Gen 13 on there, not until December, because you're not going to ruin No Nut November with a J. Scott Campbell run.
No, but what was that run? That's the Thor run by who? Who was that?
Oh, that's the first run of that's God of Thunder Volume 1.
That's it.
Dude, I'm with Chris Barrett here. I'm hoping Kraven's Hunt wins because I didn't get to finish that.
All right, so we're gonna hit randomize here, and we're gonna see what I'm just gonna do it one time. Rolling the dice.
Time.
Drum roll. Warren Ellis's Moon Knight wins.
Ooh, nice.
I'm happy with that.
I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
Okay, so we're next week. For next week, our assigned reading will be Warren Ellis's Moon Knight, which I hear is actually a pretty good run. I love me some. We haven't even talked about Warren Ellis tonight. On top of like all these like big writers and modern internet and stuff. Warren Ellis.
What's the volume number on that? Do we know what the volume number is on Warren Ellis Moon Knight?
Probably volume. Knowing Marvel's probably volume 72 or something like that. I don't know. Marvel. We talk about Marvel now, but anyway, I think that does it for Modern Men episode 4. So we'll go down the line and get some final thoughts here. So, Comment Andy, my co-pilot for all these shows, what do you think? What you got going on your channel, man?
I'm excited to read that Moon Knight run. I'm excited to read some more comic books. I'm excited to collaborate and talk more about that Copper Age versus Modern Age. But as far as my channel goes, I'm on the road to 250, surprisingly, and it's moving faster than I ever anticipated. I'm hoping to get together. I'm going to keep digging the next couple weekends and find a really cool giveaway for the community when I hit 250. Maybe I get lucky and my CGC submission comes back from Baltimore quicker than I anticipate, being the end of the con season, and I get a really cool slab back to give away. So
I don't know. They haven't even charged me yet.
I haven't even got the email to say that they got my stuff.
I know. I wonder that you have no submissions. What do you mean no submissions?
I'm like, I dropped off a crap ton of books and I haven't gotten my email yet. But that being said, like, comment, subscribe, hit me up. Let's talk some comic books. I'm looking forward to doing a giveaway at 250 and looking forward to help build this Modern Men idea, because this is something I'm very passionate about and I really like where Carson's going with this.
Big thank you for joining us once again, Andy. JB, what about you? What you got going on?
Bunch of family stuff, bunch of laundry, bunch of dishes. If I have time, I will bang out a show tomorrow. Now, actually, I think I will have time tomorrow. I did all kinds of stuff. I went to the church today and built a bench, and so I got all that stuff done today. So tomorrow, hopefully, I will have a show again. And I'm working on a little dollar pop-up auction, dollar comic book pop-up auction, that thorough Kuburo style with the starting line and the A, B, C, D, E, F kind of thing.
I'm there.
I'm working on that one because all these, I don't know if you saw that episode I did where I took the Spider-Man booth and I broke it down into.
Yeah, that was awesome, man.
It's $1, $5, $10, $20.
Yeah.
Well, guess where all those dollar books are going?
Maybe you don't happen to have Warren Ellis's Moon Knight series.
It'd be $5. 1 through 5. I'm gonna have to hunt those down.
That was a Marvel Now Moon Knight.
I think so. I gotta look
I
that
have
up.
all that shit.
Cool. Drew, what you got any reviews coming out this week, Drew?
Yeah, hopefully. I had an emergency situation today, so I didn't get one done. But we'll do it tomorrow. I'm gonna get something together for Wednesday. And yeah, maybe we'll do some more after that. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Get off my back, Carson. God. No, we're gonna be putting some videos out. Glad I can hop on here tonight, see what you guys are talking about. Lively show. Got out of work. First thing I did was load the YouTube up, put my phone on the mount. Went, all right, I'm going to drive home and listen to Carson and Andy talk about books. And what? Lo and behold, JB's here as well. And I got to the Wawa and I got my coffee.
Oh man,
yeah. And I'm just having a good old time. And I was glad to be here for this episode of Modern Men, first of the new era.
Yeah,
Technically,
new era.
What's that?
It's technically episode 3, right, Carson?
Right, but it's the first of the new era.
I think it's episode 4.
Ooh.
This is a first Monday time slot on time.
Yeah, this is where we got picked up from pilot to feature series somehow in the comic
series.
So
I'm really thankful for the opportunity, and I can't wait to learn more and also, bring myself to this.
Yeah, we're glad to have.
Don't make us regret it, Andy.
Yeah, on my
but
channel,
don't make us regret it.
we got. I'm probably gonna do a Tuesday night live stream tomorrow around 7 p.m. Eastern. I don't even know what I'm gonna talk about. Yeah, I'll just throw some books up, throw a haul, have some fun with the chat, and also on the Comic Core tomorrow, you should have Golden Guys at 10 p.m. Eastern, and then following Golden Guys, you should have Stranger Things. So you're gonna have a doubleheader tomorrow from JD here on the Comic Core. So we're gonna have both shows run wild, and then Wednesday will be Comic Core Unlimited, which I believe not this week but next week. They will be having a whole new panel on Comic Core Unlimited starting next Wednesday. So look forward to that. Wow. Thursday will be Outside the Issues. So we'll probably discuss whatever all came out. Watchmen. We'll have to talk about Watchmen and all the CW shows leading up to Christ on Infinite Earths. And then Friday is Off the Rails. So
I watched some Arrow today while I was on the couch. So I've got some catching up to do, but I'm gonna watch those crisis shows.
And then definitely check out our content from last week. We had a blast doing a live stream of us or kind of lampooning or Mystery Science Theater 3000ing Night of the Living Dead. So that was a lot of fun. Great. We hope to do more videos like that in the future. So definitely check that out on the Rewind. And I think that was my favorite video of last week personally. But nonetheless, we're going to sign off here because we're over an hour. Thank you for chat. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thanks to the panel. We'll see you guys next Monday. Thank you so much.
A quick
baby.